Hello, everybody, and welcome to VFR. Today, we are back in the CRJ-700, flying under the Horizon Airlines banner. From a quick Pacific Northwestern hop from Seattle, KSEA, down to San Francisco, KSFO. So it should be good fun. We have about an hour and 40 minutes on the flight today, and we're out on the West Coast on Vatsim as usual. So, again, trusty CRJ-700, we're going to be turning it around here. I'm not going to worry about the jet bridge today. But it should be good fun. Weather's pretty good.
Seattle traffic, United 759 at 15-mile final.
And it sounds like we have some company coming in. So, starting to get our airplane all set up. Parking brake is on. Nose wheel steering is, in fact, off. Hydraulics are all off. Spoilers are retracted. Throttles are in the shut-off position. All of our emergency stuff is set up and ready to go. Battery master's on. We're going to assume they've already tested all that stuff. And we're connected to ground power, but we'll go ahead and start the APU at this point. So, Seattle to San Francisco. Good fun. This is a classic flight. They fly it a lot, I'm sure. Mostly 737s, but there are Embraer E-Jets too. And it looks like no CRJs in the recent past. But this is a good regional hop. It's really not too far. And they're two fairly interesting airports. In particular, Seattle, we have three kind of north-south runways. And it's just because of the way the terminal is laid out, it's a little bit tricky. Tricky for controllers, especially on Vatsim. We're probably not going to deal with that too much today. But it is an interesting airport. So we're both in nav. Our nav light can come on. And we'll go ahead and set up our FMS. This is all looking good. We are at KSEA. And we'll go ahead and punch in the IRS position 1. And dial in our flight plan, KSEA to San Francisco. SFO. And I'm going to need the kilo. MF as our alternate. I believe Simbri's shooting us off 3-4. We'll see. We'll do another weather check before we get rolling here. And today we are Horizon Air 4455. So that's QXE 4455. And that'll get that here on our FMS and over here, I believe, at the top of the page. All right, so that is all set up. Let's check and see what we are flying with today. We will load up with about 65 passengers and just a touch. A Scotia cargo. And then as far as fuel, 9771. So we're pretty bang on. We'll bump it up to 10,500 or so. And we'll go ahead and set that in the simulator and copy our per-finite data. Per-finite now. Cruising, we're going to cruise fairly low, 310. Or flight level 310. Exact that. That is all set up. Okay, so flight plan route. We'll go ahead and do the middle portion first. We're on the Harobe 6 E-Rave transition. Q1 Etchy direct to Molbeck. And then the Bodega 3 arrival into San Francisco.
59, 4-mile final.
So we'll go ahead and punch in E-Rave. It sounds like he's landing 3-4, which means we're probably going to take off in 3-4. And that'll be Q1 airway to Etchy. Etchy. And then Molbeck. MLBEC. And Bodega 3. So we'll exact that midpoint here. And then departure arrival, we're going to be departing Harobe 6 E-Rave transition. And we're going to assume the longest runway closest to us, that's going to be 3-4 right. E-Rave transition and exec that. And then for arrival into San Francisco, we're going to assume we're coming in on the 2-8s. San Francisco, basically, it's like a big cross. You have 2-8s, runway 28 and runway 10, and runway 19 and 1. So we're going to assume we're coming south on one of the twos. We'll do 28 left for now. On the Bodega 3, Molbeck transition. And we'll just throw vectors in as our transition for the final approach. Alright, so that is pretty good. We will set this up. And I'm going to initialize it to Sim Toolkit Pro, just so I have it in there too. Weather here at Seattle today, winds 290 at 6 knots, 10 surface mile visibility. It's under 3044. So we can punch that in. 3044. All right. So there's a message in vPilot. Had to hunt around for that a little bit. I was not familiar with that ding. 3044, let's get back on track and get out of here. I'm shooting for 720 wheels up, but we will see. Radios, not really required. We just need to be on Unicom 122.8, and we'll just monitor and make sure no one else comes up.
United 759, clear runway.
Sounds like we are. Cabin pressure is pretty much okay. We're going about sea level to sea level. Seatbelt signs can go on. No smoking on. We'll arm emergency lights. And give it just a touch of wiper or overhead light. Then we'll come down to the cheek panel. Make sure everything is still configured like we think it is. Give it a little bit of lights. And make sure our V speeds, we're going to rotate at V2 of 132 knots. 132 knots there. Alright, so our primary barrel is set. Second standby barrel is set. Spoilers are in auto. We can arm our thrust reversers. And we'll go around the horn, stab trim, mock trim, and yaw dampers. Alright, Ifr Clearance. Let's just do a double check to make sure no one is online. We are in uncontrolled airspace right now. So we're going to clear ourselves to the San Francisco International Airport. Our Harab 4, what did I say, a rave transition? We will go ahead and do that. And that's pretty good. Alright, so nav source FMS V speeds are verified. Windows and doors can be closed and locked.
Captain, the cabin is secure.
And we are now off of all that, so we can disconnect the ground power card as well. Pull the wheel chocks and get ready to push back so beacon can come on. We need our logo lights on too so everyone knows who we are. Hydraulics. Just going down the line, all to auto. Pax run will turn on recirculate. Window heat to low. And we're just about ready. So let me call the trusty tug into position. Let's see if we can pull up the map real quick here. If you're just joining us, thanks for coming along. We are going from San Francisco International Airport out to, or from Seattle International Airport down to San Francisco tonight on Vatsim. It's fairly empty right now in the Pacific Northwest. So it should be a nice, relaxing flight. So the tug is set up, and let's pull up the airport in our EFB and see what we're dealing with here. So here is Seattle International Airport. Obviously, the three parallel north-south runways. We are over here, kind of out behind the terminal here. We're going to basically push back out onto this taxiway, taxi on out, and we'll taxi via Bravo all the way down. Let's see if that other one actually has a name. Yeah, so there's Alpha there, but it's just kind of the ramp area. So Bravo, we'll take Bravo all the way down to 3-4 right. As soon as we're ready. We do have, looks like some other folks here getting ready to head out on the Vatsim network as well. So ready for push and start. We can make sure that our fuel boost pumps are on. And I think everything else is ready to go. So parking brake can come off. And again, we're just going to kind of reverse out onto this little taxi area here. We'll shoot to be between the road markings. Not that that means too terribly much. And we're a good distance from the gate now. So let's hit right engine. Again, we're looking for 20% on the right engine. And we do have life, 17, 18, 19.
Seattle traffic American 2775, 7 miles east of the field on the downwind for 3-4 right.
All right, and we will punch it out here. Another person on the downwind for 3-4 right. And we can go ahead and stop it here. Left engine now. Let's hit the right engine started. Let's hit the left engine now. %, and 20% we can go ahead and get set up. And that is our engine started. So before taxi, generators 1 and 2 need to be in the auto position. Cross flow override to manual. We'll stop the APU here in a second. Anti-ice is off for now. We will turn on our probe heat. We are going to set flaps 8 for takeoff today. And a trim, if I remember correctly, 7.6 on the trim. Taxi light can't come on. Transponder is on for whatever good that does. And we will clear ourselves to taxi here in a second.
Still traffic last 1137, about 20 miles out, ILS 24 right.
Yeah. We can go ahead and stop the APU and turn off the power. Okay. So, taxiing. We are going to taxi to runway 34 right via Bravo. We're going to basically taxi straight ahead and then go via Bravo. So we'll give it a little bit of... Uh-oh. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. So for some reason we lost both engines there. That might, well, be a bug or just as easily user error. Let's fire up our APU and try and salvage this. Oh, that was weird. Just as I hit the throttle, it cut out on me. Strange indeed. So APU's up. It looks like we probably lost... Did we lose our flight plan? We did. So we lost all our good programming. Looks like both engines quit too. So we'll try and refire our right engine while I fix this. KSEA. We'll do it fast. KSFO. This week on Button Pushing Simulator. SMF. That's WF. Now we're going to be departing 3-4 right today. And QXE 4455. And we're going to depart Europe 6, E-Rave, transition 3-4 right. At that point, we are going to go... Our flight plan calls for... Q1 Etchy. And do we have... Oh, we're alive. Okay. Certainly not what you're supposed to do in this situation. We probably wouldn't fly it today. If I can spell Molbeck. Exec. And then our arrival into SFO, Bodega 3, Molbeck transition. We will plan on, I can't remember which one it is. That's closest to the terminal, 28 left. So we'll plan on 28 left. That looks okay. Let's check our legs.
Seattle traffic loss 1137, about 6 mile final 34 right Seattle.
That'll take us to Molbeck twice. Okay. So the flight plan is salvaged. Now let's see perf init. See if I can still copy my perf init data. We can, and we're going to be flight level 310. So I don't know what it is about streaming and false starts, but it does seem to encourage that. We'll just go around the horn on all of them. All right. So now it looks like we have both engines. Let me do a little bit of fiddling around and just make sure everything's set up right. Stand by 1 sec. All right, so I think we got it fixed. What I'm assuming is it is a control mapping issue. So a lot of airplanes, especially third party, DC-6 does this too. If you have your mixture bound to one of your axes that you're flying with, and you set that mixture to 0, even though it doesn't actually move the control, it'll set the mixture, it'll impact the sim. So it's just something to think about. I was still bound in my GA preset, so when I hit the button, it would take my mixture all the way down to 0. Now, obviously, the CRJ doesn't have mixture, but for some reason, it shuts down the engines. So that is what's going on there. So just be careful with your control setups. I need to add that to the checklist. All right, but I think no harm, no foul. We are still set up and now ready for taxi. So we'll taxi on out. As we are taxiing on out, let's brief our departure. We're going to be on the Arab 6 departure, which, shooting off of runway 34 right, we'll be going to direct to an RNAV tracking 344 to a waypoint Dodov, and then above 3,100 at Whirl, and then above 10,000 at Hayrub. And then E-Rave, and we're out of there. So we'll be climbing up. Basically, once we get out of the area, we will go ahead and climb on up as high and as fast as we can. And we will, once we get out here, kind of this apron off the movement area, we'll make our taxi call to let the other guys know we are coming in too. And looks like that's one of them. Seattle traffic, Horizon 4455 type CRJ. We're taxiing to runway 34 right via Bravo. Seattle traffic. So doing some untowered ups in big-ish jets for us, but I think they're doing bigger jets. So someone's doing a right downwind, a visual approach. We'll keep our eye out for them. We'll let them get onto the ground most likely before we do too much. Now, are there multiple folks buzzing around here? So that looks like it's an Alaska 737. Ways to the north of the field. Probably coming in. All right, so let's, before we get too distracted, before takeoff, thrust reversers are armed, transponders on, spoilers are retracted, brake temps are in the green, cabin crew's been notified, departure, we have briefed it. Takeoff clearance, we will get it, give ourselves clearance once we get up there. So we do have another American on short final. For 3-4, right? I think that is this light out here, maybe. Not showing up on Sim Toolkit Pro, but maybe it will on SkyVector or on vPilot. Yeah, so it looks like that's an American A321 in from Charlotte, so that's a decent haul. And we're just going to keep on taxiing all the way down to the end. It kind of snakes out a little bit and then comes on down. So thanks for coming along with us tonight on weeknight flights here on VFR. Today we're going from Seattle International Airport down to San Francisco in the trusty Horizon CRJ-700. We do have some IFR and some VFR traffic in the pattern right now. So this, I believe, is an A320, maybe an A321 coming into land. And then there's a Boeing 737 in the pattern somewhere. We will, we'll see. If he's still on downwind, we might just shoot on out of here, but we'll make that call once we get up there. Now we get some Vatsim velocity in action. as the American A321, if my model matching can be trusted. Little bump there. It is kind of cool that you could see that level of fidelity there on the landing. So Vatsim velocity, everybody. We're holding short of 3-4 right. Let's pull up VPilot and see where this person's at. So it looks like he's still on downwind. The next question is going to be, where are we departing? So we're departing out to the north. If he's not turned final, I think we're going to... Yeah, if he hasn't turned final, I think we're going to go for it. So we will make our traffic call. We'll light up. Seattle traffic, Horizon 4455 is taking runway 34 right for a departure out to the north. Seattle traffic. We'll toga. We're going to be departing Harrop 4, and we'll just hit it on the roll as long as that American's out of the way. Just to keep clear of this 737 doing pattern work. All right. So toga power. And we have no heading upper limit right now. We just need to climb basically above 3,500. And we will rotate. And we are away. Gear up, flaps up. Back into climb power. Let's bug. We have our heading about bugged. We can really just go straight into nav mode for this and speed. And let the airplane take care of itself. Seattle traffic, Horizon Air 4455 is clear runway 34 right. Well, we're climbing through about 1,000. All right, we will go to... We need to be above 3,100 at Werfel. I think we will... Or Whirl, I'm not in Florida. I think we will have that. And then it's above 10,000 at Hayrup once we get out there. So thanks for coming along today. We are departing out of Seattle now. The airplane's going to figure itself out a little bit. We're going to be climbing up to a flight level 310 today on our trip down to San Francisco. No ATC on at the moment. We'll see if anything lights up in California. But these are fun enough. It's a fun airport. It's a fun approach anyway. And neither is rocket science. All right, so we're going to go ahead and clear ourselves up to our final cruising altitude of flight level 310. And we'll go a speed climb of 250 knots till we get above 10,000 feet. All right, so we are climbing out over Seattle, Washington now. Here in Microsoft Flight Simulator, CRJ-700 on the climb on out. Maybe we can see the 737. Looks like he got down. I believe she was flying under an Alaska call sign. So some great views on our departure out of Seattle here today. And we're leveling off a little bit here. We're going to go now out to Brem. And, yeah, we'll be climbing up to flight level 310. We're banking about 3,000 feet per minute. So we climb out over the Pacific Northwest. So enjoying the CRJ tonight. It's good. I feel like I've been flying the CRJ enough that I know it fairly well at this point, which is always a nice point to get to in an airplane. It's sometimes harder to keep it that way, you know, but it is good fun. You're on Thursday night flights, and we are trying to be a little more consistent with the streaming schedule. It kind of depends on what's better for me, Thursday or Friday. So aim for Thursday nights, and then if we miss it on Thursday, Friday is usually a good option. There's just usually a lot more traffic on Friday, which I think is good for streams, but it also brings its own challenges. So definitely something that is something worth doing. Seattle Airport down that way. So we climb out. It's a really nice day, really nice evening here out over Seattle. And we're climbing through 12,000, so we can crank the speed up at just a smidge to 280. And we can go ahead and take our seatbelt signs off for the folks. I will post the route in chat just in case. I'm doing some other fun stuff, working a little bit more with the Twin Otter recently. And Microsoft Flight Simulator scenery development, which is an interesting little challenge, while also being maddening sometimes. I think we've got it figured out for our next kind of flight in the Twin Otter, which should be fun. And then from there, who knows? From there, who knows? But trying to get some of this working too. Hey, there it goes. So yeah, today's kind of a lazy flight that's not too difficult, not too stressful, and also it's troubleshooting some of the streaming stuff on the side as well. 2992, and we'll go down to 2992. We're still climbing out through 18,000 now for flight level 310. Nope, that would do it. So let's try that. So let's see, weather in San Francisco right now. We pull up sim brief and just we can talk through the route too a little bit. So here we are up in Seattle, flying out. We're still climbing out on the Haro 6 departure, out towards E-Rave, and then we'll turn south, and basically that'll be the bulk of our route, flying all the way down to San Francisco. And from there, we'll actually basically be able to come in from the north and make about as straight in as you can. Well, no, we'll have to go out to the final approach fix. I take that back. So we're going to be, let's see what it's telling me to do. We're coming into runway 28, so we'll basically fly out over the bay and then turn around and come on in to land in San Francisco. But it should be a fairly straightforward approach. And again, we'll see if we get anyone online to join us out at San Francisco. And the APU is still on. So before we go wing view, we can also turn that off. And now it's as good a time as any to run our after takeoff checklist. Gears retracted, obviously, flaps are up. Thrust reversers are disarmed. We can turn off cross-flow auto override to manual. Barrel row is set to 2992 above 18,000, which is our transition altitude here. No anti-ice needed yet. We will. Looks like there's some more clouds out there, so we may take a look at that as we come in. Landing lights are going to come off, and seatbelt sign is off, so folks can get up and move around. So again, thanks for coming along here at weeknight flight at VFR. Doing a lot of CRJ flying lately. While I can, I think in this world of airliner flying, Microsoft Flight Simulator is a pretty exciting time with obviously 737. Well, I think we got the first videos of that before the last we all chatted as a stream. Looks pretty interesting. Looks pretty good. A lot of customization on the flight deck, which is always a pretty interesting thing. Lots of different ways to go. I'm excited for that. I think it'll be great, as long as, again, my thing is going to be performance. I don't have I wouldn't say top of the line system, but DC6 still works on the still works a lot on the other stuff. Snip McSlims asks if there's any more planning for the DC6 content. The missions out of England were fun. I think it's a good. I do need to get back into more DC6 stuff. It's an airplane that I haven't sat down and flown too much, except for Why You Should Fly, which took some knocking of the rust off. So it is one that you got to knock the rust off a little bit. But it's definitely one. I think if we could come up with a really interesting tour or something, some kind of, like, the missions out of England were fun. The thing about Europe is it's kind of flat in a lot of places, at least a lot of places we were flying. And we were flying into weird airports too, which was an interesting challenge. But it's hard to find good documentation on some of those. So definitely, I think DC6 with the right. I'd love to do a DC6 series again. Another DC6 series would be good fun. And if we can find the right place to do it, I think that would definitely be something we could do. It's a good airplane. It just takes a bit of practice. It's also a hard airplane to film. I have actually found, ironically, it's kind of the airplane that started this channel, but it's a hard airplane to film and do it well. There's a lot going on when you get down there. And island hopping out of Florida could be fun. I mean, even like maybe a retro airliner tour or something. This autopilot's not really loving what we're doing here. Let's go ahead and just take it out of its control and point it in the right direction. Yeah, I would even think like a kind of a retro airline thing, maybe around some of the smaller airports in Florida, island hopping. Even going down, a lot of the Caribbean islands would be fun to do too. So definitely good options. I mean, we've done some of that with the Twin Otter. The Twin Otter is just kind of slow for a lot of the island hopping because it takes a while to do. But DC6 would actually probably make a good pace. So definitely, I think there's definitely some opportunities. Definitely some opportunities for that. But it is something I'd have to sit down and dedicate a chunk of time to getting up to speed and doing it a bunch, which is what those series are really good for. So definitely. And we are working on some other more mission kind of focused flights as well. So if we can, if that works out pretty well, if I like the way that those come out, DC6 would be high on the list to do that. Yeah, Florida islands would be fun. Any kind of islands would be fun. Even the Pacific could be fun. I haven't done a lot of Pacific. So Snip, you flew it from Spain to Ireland and then to Canada. See, that is a lot. That's a long stream. That could be a fun multi-parter. I mean, that's another one. That is another one I'd love to do. I'd love to sit down for a day, block off a whole day. You could even do it as a stream and cross the Atlantic. You'd have to judge it so you get it right, or you could do a refueling stop. But I mean, DC6s flew transatlantic, not uncommonly. So you could definitely do that, and I'd love to do a transatlantic stream someday. Just about finding, you probably have to block out the whole day for it because that's an 8-9 hour flight. But it could be good fun, especially before we get too many long haul airliners in there. I've never done a whole lot of long hauling, but DC6 could be fun. Again, you'd kind of have to work up for it, but really appreciate that. Thanks, Snip. That's it's a lot of fun. It's a fun airplane. Appreciate the support. So we're at 310. Let's see if the autopilot will like what we're doing here now. So it could be fun. What else would be? I mean, good old Pan Am flights, the DC6. They got to have some good destinations. Maybe that'll be the next stream. That could be fun. Left crosswind for runway 8. So they're coming in. So they're entering past the runway. That's an interesting call. I don't know where these people are. They might be practicing some untowered operations. Yeah, I don't see them on. Okay, I guess I do see them out here. Astoria Regional. So they must be doing a some kind of event or fun. Oh, look, Seattle Tower's online. We just missed them. So we'll get to listen to the sounds of untowered ops. Yes, and if Africa would be a cool one too. I've done a couple of legs in the DC6. And the DC6 kind of is the perfect airplane for that. I think those are a good route. As long as the weather's pretty good, and even a lot of the international airports really could. It's just, yeah, Africa, if you're going to try and fly, it was the same kind of thing with the England and the Matt's career. A lot of it's a hit or miss how well the database is updated. So if you're relying on an ILS to come in and guide you, I think once you get more comfortable with the DC6, but I was really relying heavily on the ILSs to get it all right. But so that was always kind of spotty, whether that was going to work or not. It was kind of a dice roll. But there are some actually good handcrafted airports in Africa. I'm sure there's some freeware scenery too that we could use. Maybe do some smaller field operations. So it looks like we got a little conga line, a little parade of VFR traffic. Again, they're working kind of out to our left, out in Astoria here, out on the west coast of Oregon. It looks like. If we go to our EFB, we'll lose them eventually, but you can see them working. I think that's what these guys are doing out here in Astoria. That would be fun too. Some I always like those untowered airport ops. It's just hard to simulate. So thanks for coming along. If you're just joining us, we are heading from Seattle International Airport down to San Francisco in the CRJ-700. Taking a quick trip down another. So we were nice and sunny out of San Francisco, or out of Seattle. We got a nice view of downtown. And now we're going to hit clouds. I don't know how long this cloud cover is going to stay. Let's look and see what weather is in San Francisco. I think that's why I opened this to start with. San Francisco, wind 290, 14 knots. Still showing 10 surface miles visibility. A few clouds at 3,000 feet, broken at 20,000. Altimeter 3027 at San Francisco. Temperature 12 C's, so that's kind of cold, I think, in C's. Above freezing. With a dew point of 4 C's. And if you're interested in the hectopascals, it's 1025. Yes, Snip, that's a good point. I don't have to pretend to be a third-rate pilot, I'll tell you what. But it might be fun to kind of release some of that and just dirt strip work in the DC-6. I just, yeah, I don't know. I feel like the DC-6, it's a plane that makes me self-conscious. But it really shouldn't. It should just be fun to fly. It's really fun when you get it right. And it is really interesting. Really good stuff. And we'll be doing a little bit more of that kind of thing with the Twin Otter here in the near future. Visiting another continent. DC-6, I mean, Alaska. I feel like I've neglected Alaska a little bit. Wintertime in Alaska going up to Barrow. So that might be a good one for next week, actually. We'll see. We might branch out to do some DC-6 flying. Have a DC-6 week. In celebration of PMTG's upcoming, not very much like it, airliner. All right, so if we look at, let's just do a quick fuel check, see how we're doing. We've burned 2,385 pounds. We've got 4,000 in each tank. And, yeah. We are pretty well set up for heading into San Francisco. Oh yeah, and Snip doesn't want to harp on the DC-6, but yeah, other planes are good as well, but it is a really good airplane. It's just one of those that maybe I put a lot too much pressure on myself to fly it well. I should just embrace the suck and just fly it more. It is really fun to fly. It's good stuff. But other planes are fun too. Yeah, definitely. See, again, I've been kind of on a CRJ kick in my a lot of the content hasn't been CRJ. Well, I guess that's not true. We've been streaming, but apart from it's been really Twin Otter CRJ lately. It'll probably be 737 in the future. So, but again, it's just fun to keep working on other airplanes. And just I just like finding the fun ways to fly that are interesting to me. DC-6 it kind of brings its own flavor in its own package. It's unique. And we're holding about 300 knots. We will keep that. We'll keep the pedal down here. No one is waiting on us. I don't know why my ETA isn't coming in on the overlay. But that is interesting. So we are over, well, let's see, we are just about passing Portland. Off to the east, heading down over Oregon. For Northern California today, you're in the CRJ-700. And flying in Horizon colors, just trying to use some of these other ones. Again, I feel like I use a lot of American. I do like the U.S. Airways. I've been flying. I actually in American West. I was looking at old CRJ photos the other day on just airliners.net. And it is funny how many American West ones there were. The CRJ-700, I mean, it's one of those planes that was really more wide. I mean, if you look at who uses the CRJ-7 now, it's a much diminished list, which is kind of sad, but also like it doesn't matter to me. But there were a lot more in the past, especially these Horizon Airs, a lot of them Alaska, Frontier branded CRJs, which I didn't know they had. So Frontier branded is an option if you're looking for historical CRJs. And definitely good stuff. But yeah, if you Google it now, like I do, who flies the CRJ and where do they fly it? The CRJ-700s really are kind of outnumbered by the 900s and 1000s. As someone who doesn't have the CRJ-900 and 1000, that can be a bummer, but I mean, you can still fly for any of the big three. You can fly the 550 too. But it just, I enjoy those kind of partially retro airliners. And let's get a good wing view of the clouds over Oregon. So we're about 30 minutes into what should be an hour and a half, 40-minute flight, depending on how the winds hit us. Down for what should be a fairly scenic approach, as long as we can see it. Sounds like from the METAR we should be able to, and that's what Flight Sim's going off of. But yeah, it should be good. Into San Francisco. Also planning out the 737 routes we want to do. There's a lot. I mean, it is kind of funny too, because the 737 really, it's not that different from an A320. They fill a very similar role, and I don't fly the A320 that much. I've looked at it, but I just don't want to mess up my CRJ rhythms with another airplane right now. And I just haven't flown the fly-by-wire in a long time, so it takes a lot of relearning. And I found the A320 autopilot to be confusing because I'm sure it makes sense and everything, but it doesn't light up when something's hooked up. It's hard to tell what mode it is when you're coming from CRJ where it's pretty simple like this. So it's just, not big stuff, but small stuff that I just haven't really messed with. So, A320, it flies a lot of the same routes as the A320. I would really like the longer Boeings, like in a 737-800 or 900. Even because 900, you can even start getting some long haul stuff. But it should be good. So we'll fly probably the usual fare. We'll spend some time out east. Maybe do some more Europe stuff. Could do some Europe Vatsimming as well. Always found that to be a bit intimidating, but could be good. So we are, looks like 6 miles from Eason. And then Ebini Where are we actually? We're going to Etchy is what we, and then it's direct Etchy to Molbeck. Maybe I'm just zoomed in too far. We can get rid of these airports too. I wish it didn't show the airports by default. I wonder if I can change that. What about Mach 0.8 on the speed today? So we'll enjoy the other wing view as we cruise out here over Oregon. Still looking at other places to fly the CRJ. Oh, we could fly some Canadian stuff too. It's always it's a good amount of flying is a good hour or 2 hours. But again, you could fly them. I did do some Googling to see if we could get a CRJ across the Atlantic. But probably it's a bit of a stretch. Favorable winds, you could do it really light, but does that really count? Probably not. So thanks for coming along. If you're just joining us, we are heading from Seattle International Airport down to San Francisco, KSFO. We'll be approaching San Francisco from the north, so we should have some pretty good views of the mountains, maybe even some bridge. I don't know. As we come in, we'll be coming in on the 28s at San Francisco and making that happen. We are on Vatsim tonight. Playing we had some general aviation friends a little while ago practicing their untowered ops at Astoria Regional Airport. But it's all quiet over the Pacific Coast at the moment. You're on Unicom on Vatsim. But hey, that's all right. It's a quiet kind of night here for weeknight flights. LAX looks busy. We go around. Well, let's go around. We can go around a little bit. Some Toolkit Pro says we have about 48 minutes left on our flight today. We got a nice big storm here over the Midwest and East. Looks like DCA is 8th up, Washington Center online. Atlanta Center also looks to be fairly busy, as does Dallas-Fort Worth. A nice train of folks heading into Phoenix. And obviously LAX is LAX, they're pretty busy. Down in SoCal. NorCal, pretty quiet. It looks like there's Reno is online. Now, my first Vatsim flight actually happened around here. My first Vatsim flight was a VFR flight from Fresno Airport, which was towered at the time, out towards, I think we flew out to Yosemite. That was a good time. So, some of these airports, like Reno, I don't know if they're doing an event or not. They might be doing an event, but they might just be training up controllers. So, I mean, if you're a new person looking to get into VATSIM, this kind of situation with a small airport approach, and you just want to fly out somewhere with VFR, talk to people on departure, and then fly out to some airport, this would be kind of an ideal situation to start out with. You got a couple people to talk through, but not a ton of pressure at a smaller airport like that. But again, I always believe in towers, ground are good starting points for VATSIM ops like that. Looks snowy and rainy out there, but other than that, it's pretty good. Europe's pretty quiet at the moment. So let's check in on the flight deck, see what's going on. Still holding about 300 knots, Mach 0.8. It's telling us our ETA is about hour 22. I haven't punched the winds in or anything, so I don't anticipate this is going to be super accurate. Well, we'll be basically going to Etche. After Etche, we will hit our top of descent and then hit Molbeck. At that point, we can start to entertain the idea of descending on the arrival. So thanks for coming out on a quiet weeknight flights here at VFR. Got some fun stuff coming down the pike. We've been looking at some fun places we could fly the DC-6, maybe spend some time in the DC-6 before the 737 comes out. Obviously, 737 is the big one I'm excited about moving forward. I really haven't flown 737 in the modern age of simming for me. So that should be fun. But I think it's an exciting time for flight sim, obviously. Lots of good stuff coming out. We're getting into the spring almost, so. Should be some good activity, especially in more complex airplanes, if that's your jam. But I mean, I think if you take a step back and look at the roster, that's really one of the only things missing. Maybe a long-haul airplane, but we've got good GA airplanes. We've got good kind of intermediate planes, good commuter planes. Just a good, solid mainline airliner. I think we'd be looking pretty good. Looking at the overlay, our altitude is all sorts of wrong. We're not at 7,000 feet. We're at 31,000 feet. I don't know what it's doing there. And unlike Sim Toolkit Pro, it is not venturing a guess as to when we'll be there. So your guess is as good as mine. But we'll about maintain this speed, and again, we'll see if anyone comes online to control us. We very much need it heading into San Francisco. we're going to set that back up. Get our map back up. And keep on cruising as we start hitting the mountains. As we get into, we're not quite to the California line, but starting to think about it. Nice day. Looks like those clouds have cleared up a little bit. Down the line, we will do a double check of San Francisco weather. Make sure it hasn't changed too much. Oh yeah, 290. Still pretty blustery. 290. So we should have. There shouldn't be much crosswind, but it is pretty windy. 17 knots out in San Francisco right now. So yeah, definitely some fun stuff. I've been experimenting with scenery, making some sceneries that we might use in some of the upcoming videos. It's a fun thing, but also kind of like I've also done aircraft liveries. Not to toot my own horn, but the DC-6 for one, and it's a maddening combination of easy and difficult. Making a scenery isn't that hard, but there's weird stuff that happens that makes it hard, so you can easily spend a night troubleshooting, which isn't the most attractive. But if you can get it to work reliably, it is good fun, and I think it'll add some fun to the videos. I'm especially just giving some purpose to smaller GA flights. If you can bang together a quick scenery to fulfill some kind of mission that you want to plan, that could be fun. And but we will see how it all goes out. Flying in fun places. So still cruising 31,000 feet, Mach 0.8. All is still pretty quiet, and that's not a bad thing. Zulu now. Yeah, we'll have to look and see where we got off the block. I do want to try and be better about getting off the blocks and being able to predict my actual time that I'm going to be taking off. You know, be a good proper airline pilot. But it is it just takes a little bit of forethought. We did have a little bit of a hiccup on departure. I turned off the engines because I had my mixture set, so I was turning off all the fuel flow into the CRJ by accident. So don't do that if you can help it. It's quite embarrassing, especially if there's people waiting behind you. Thankfully, we were all on our own in our embarrassment today. So thanks for spending your Thursday evening flying along with us. Again, we are Horizon Air 4455 out of Seattle. Now, Horizon Air, it's one of those, well, it's a subsidiary of Alaska. Well, technically they're owned by the same company. So the Alaska Air Group owns Horizon Air and Alaska Airlines. And they operate Alaska flights and co-branded as Alaska Horizon Airlines. Never flown on one. But started in the 80s, in 1981. Purchased in 1986 by the Alaska Air Group. And early on, they flew them painted like this. Horizon Airline colors. And eventually they moved to more standardized Alaska Airlines branding. CRJ-700 worked until 2011 as a regional jet. They had a total of 21. A lot of Dash 8s that were also used. And, well, what is... I'm not sure what the current fleet is now. Right now it's Dash 8, Dash 400s, and E-Jets, and E-175. I'd love to have a good E-Jet. That would be fun. I know there's one on the marketplace. I don't think it's particularly reputable. But a good detailed E-Jet would be a nice one to fly as well. So we're passing Benny. We're going to go to LN. And then once we get on, keep on going, we will go down that way. And Dash 8 too. You know, I talk about that, but a Dash 8 would be fun. I know they're still developing an ATR for flight sim, but a Dash 8 would be good. Definitely on the wish list. Also pretty excited about the propeller. I'm excited to play around with some of the physics stuff. I did see, hoping that we can use some of the CFD stuff. I can't remember if they said they were opening up that tool or not, but I could play around with that all day. Basically, if you saw any of the developer update from this month, I think. They basically showed off some cool CFD tools that they were using to evaluate the airflow over the wings. That would be a ton of fun. We could do some flight tests on that. It's really cool. I mean, it is just a really cool thing. I mean, so the new propellers are going to simulate the propellers spinning and not just kind of the abstracted point that they are now with some special property, and actually generate airflow over the back of the airplane. I think if you can implement that and tune it well, I think the King Air is the one I know that they're doing it for. I think the 152 too. So we'll have to play around with those a little bit more as well, because that could change how the King Air flies, which we've looked at a little bit more in detail than others. But it could also it's just a neat thing on a purely technical level too. And yeah, if we get our hands on the CFD tools, that would be really fun to just kind of explore what some of these are. What some of these airplanes are doing. It's a lot of cool stuff. Sim Update 8, I believe, is when that's coming in. And then, what's World Update 8? Spain and Portugal? I'm sure there are lots of great flights in that part of the world. It's not one I'm terribly familiar with. So thanks for coming along, for just joining us. We are heading now to San Francisco, KSFO, from Seattle International, KSEA, flying Horizon Air 4455, CRJ-7. Going down. My alternate for today, I mean, we might do Jackson Hole 2 one of these days. That's a good fun one for the CRJ if you're looking for something. Jackson Hole obviously is an airport in Grand Teton National Park. It's a good fun park to fly into with commercial planes. So that's a good one if we're doing more Western flights. Finding a good place to fly in from, like Denver, would be good. So we might have to try that. I still haven't flown to... Oh, we should fly to Aspen too. I mean, a lot of those mountain airports make for good CRJ fun. Let's see what it's telling us now. About an hour. Well, yeah. Where am I? Or am I behind? Is that saying? Oh, okay. So I'm reading this wrong. This, I believe, is the Zulu time. Now, for some reason, it looks like I'm off time because it's not 0037. It's really 116. But if it's 0037 here, we'd be getting in around 120. So that makes a little bit more sense. I was wondering why that wasn't going down. So that would be the time in Zulu time. But for some reason, my time is just a little bit off. So we are flying in the past, I guess, by about half hour. And we're coming up on, what is this, Envy, and then Tokos, and then we're going to basically fly the rest of the way into San Francisco. Envy, Tokos, Etchi, and Mulbeck. Now, the departure, let's talk about the arrival into SFO. It's going to show me all my constraints here. I do kind of prefer to work on it on the actual chart instead, just since that's the ground truth. So let's pull that up. Alright, so we are coming in on the Bodega 3 arrival into San Francisco, and we are coming in on Mulbeck. So if we zoom in nice and big, Mulbeck here, we need to be above flight level 290. That should be fine. We're at 310 now. So we come in there, we could hold there, but we're not going to. We're going to come on downhill to Johnny, 280 and 240, and a speed of 280 knots at Johnny. Then down to Boogaloo, 280 knots, still a floor of 190. And then we got to be below 16,000 at Laza, 280 knots, still below 13,000 at Bodega, 11,000 at Cork, and then 250 knots, and then Bricks, and then we'll get vectored onto the approach. We're going to be shooting the ILS runway. I'm still on Seattle, so let's go KSFO. Help if I typed in an airport that actually exists, KSFO. And again, I believe we're coming in 28 left today. So we're basically going to fly out over the bay a little bit and then make a right-handed turn to intercept the localizer for runway 28 left. 28 left will put us pretty close into the airport, or pretty close into the terminal, I should say. And then we'll get, so Sim Toolkit Pro is about where we are. We are, I'd say, a good 75% of the way there. Starting to entertaining the concept of top of descent. And our top of descent's going to be right after Etchi. So if I go back to our stream, Etchi's coming up down here. Not too long. Let's see what the direct page has to offer. It wants us still 310 and then 276 at Johnny, and we'll just basically follow this profile on down. Yeah, we'll basically follow this profile on down. Now, San Francisco, it's one of the places that I have done a little bit of practice shooting missed approaches. So if we have to go missed, not that I think we really will, it's a nice day out, but for whatever reason, if we have to, I'm reasonably confident in it. That's a good skill. I'm just also trying to think of all the skills you would need for to really be prepared to fly an airplane on Vatsim. I don't know. It's a tough. I feel like sometimes you get the advice, well, if you want to fly a plane on Vatsim, you need to know your airplane. And that's good advice, but it's also kind of vague. Because what does it mean to know your airplane? What are the things you have to actually know? I mean, there's probably a bare minimum. Be able to go direct to a waypoint. Be able to actually land the plane. Be able to manipulate your FMS if you get a routing change. And, well, and not even that. You could also just know how to fly a specific heading. Autopilot or not. I mean, you don't want to assume you have an autopilot, but most planes probably do. But I guess I don't know if missed approach would fall into that. You probably do need to know how to go missed, but it's not. It's also partly, this plane, airliners are nice because it does it all for you, and I just pointed at the purple cross and take it where it wants to take me. Go where it wants to take me. But if you're flying a little Cessna, you just have to read the chart. So it's not a chunk of it's reading the chart. So I don't know. Don't know if there's anything to that. Alright, Focus, then Etchy, and then that's top of descent. We'll bring it on downhill just a little bit. We're going to start actually a little bit after Molbeck. And, yeah, then we'll descend fairly rapidly down to 13,000, 11,000 on the Bodega 6 arrival. Now, again, it's still pretty windy in San Francisco. We can do another check and make sure, A, there's no ATC online. Doesn't look like it, but we do have some friends coming in. Cargo 747 and a United 777 out of Honolulu. So no ATC still. Let's check on weather one more time just to make sure nothing drastic has changed. No, it looks like still. Wind 290, 17 knots, 11 Cs, which is, I believe, moderately cold in Fs. Dew point of 3 degrees Celsius, and 1025 hectopascals, if you're interested in that particular measurement, 3027. All right, and we'll be prepared to vector ourselves in. It should be fairly simple. This arrival should just take us, kind of shoot us off the end. Well, let's actually see what it says. It should end us on a heading of 140, and we'll just basically fly 140 till we're comfortable turning downwind. So thanks for coming along. We are getting ready, starting to think about potentially descending into San Francisco International Airport here on our weeknight flights here on VFR. Thanks for coming along. As always, if you have any questions, ideas, comments, critiques, drop them in the chat, or you can come back, drop them in the comments below. And yeah, if you enjoy what you do, subscription, liking video always helps. It's algorithm stuff, and it's don't love to harp on it, but it does help a whole lot. I really appreciate all the support we've gotten over the last 8 months or so. It's been a fun ride. We're getting up to close to 1,000. We may have to do something special for that. We're talking about doing an Atlantic crossing, maybe in the DC-6, so maybe we carve out a day for that. That could be a fun one. As we come on downhill into San Francisco, well, almost Focus. And then we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves. Again, a little windy up here, but it is not too bad. Rise near CRJ-700. And it is a little bumpy. And it's just fun. Yeah, I've been in the CRJ groove. It's always nice to be in a groove of a plane you want to fly, and you fly it. And, not even that you necessarily learn every little bit of it, because I certainly don't have that down in the CRJ. This thing can do, I'm sure, more than I know how to do with it, but it is fun to get into a rhythm like that, definitely. With any plane. Also, I mean, in DCS, it's the same way. If you fly a plane a bunch and you have something to do with it, it's nice to get just into the groove for a bit. So I appreciate y'all sticking around with all the CRJ live flights. We're going to probably shake it up. We might do some DC-6 stuff next week. Just kind of feeling pretty good. We come up with a good flight. Maybe some retro airliner action. Retro propliner action, I should say. Knock off some rust. And Etchy looks like going to be about 9 minutes. I'm reading that right. Yeah, 9 minutes to Etchy. As we bring it on downhill. The airplane's been pretty well behaved. I haven't had to mess with the throttle very much. I don't know what I'm going to do with an auto throttle. I'm going to be lost when the 737 finally hits. We'll have to start thinking about that too. I don't know. I don't know what we'll end up flying. Really fly anything, I guess. And are we formally into Northern California? We are. We've been in for a little bit. So we're over the mountains of Northern California. Heading on into San Francisco. Should have a nice view of the San Francisco Bay as we come in and along. That's one of the fun things about this airport. It is a good, nice scenic approach. Especially on a nice day or a sunset. It's good stuff. That's a good point, Steph. It auto lands at the right airports. Auto landing a whole another thing. It just hands off. I'll be asleep at the wheel. Set it and forget it. I mean, again, it's kind of, it's just a different skill set. Airliner flying, it's a lot like, I don't know, maybe a crossword puzzle is a bad example. But it's like one of those things, maybe a Sudoku or something, where it isn't the most hands-on flying that you're going to do in your life. And that's all right, I guess. It's not really a knock on it. I'm not doing Top Gun Maverick stuff right now. You're really managing the plane, making sure that it gets down there. But yeah, with auto throttle, I don't know. It'll be, I really don't know what they're capable of. This is really the plane I've flown the most. Again, I haven't flown the A320 too much, and I got kind of frustrated when I tried it a couple weeks ago. Because I didn't take the time to really sit down and relearn it. I just felt like I couldn't predict what it was going to do. But it's a whole different beast. But it will be different to have some auto throttle. It will help me stop busting these speeds. It'll help me stop going up to 300 knots at ground level on takeoff just because I leveled off on accident when I was talking in the CRJ. That is the one place it gets you. Where, yeah, speed gets away from you a little bit. But overall, it is fun. The management elements of the CRJ make it fun. But again, auto throttle, no auto throttle. It's just flying the plane. Just adds, it frees up some brain waves for making sure I actually read the chart. So maybe it is more pressure on me, I guess, in a way. Then what will my excuse be for busting the speed restrictions? Oh yeah, definitely not a critique. It's that really is. It's one of the reasons why I like like exploring all these different planes. There's all different kinds of ways to have fun. It is really nice, and I think people in the community sometimes spend too much time worrying about that, worrying about how other people fly and what makes it fun for them. Really, if you find it fun zipping around in treetop level in a Super Hornet, you want to fly by all the skylines, that's cool. That's awesome. So, I mean, they're all fun ways to fly. Fun ways to fly, definitely, and I've never been the ultra hardcore super airline pilot. But I do my best. But yeah, that's a great point. It is all different kinds of sim. There's room for all in flight simming. Room for all. And again, I think Microsoft Flight Simulator, we have a nice kind of cross-section developed of planes and things to do that are fun for a wide group of people. I think airliners are maybe the one waiting to catch up. We're coming up on Etchy now. It's going to want me at 276 at Johnny. We'll do this in vertical speed mode so I can match that a little bit easier. And just keep an eye on speed the old-fashioned way with the manual. So once we cross Millbeck, we'll start coming back on the power a little bit, knocking our vertical speed. Looking like it's going to ask us for 600 feet per minute. Getting a little longer as we go on down. And yeah, let's see. Make sure we are in fact still alone. Looks like we are. Plane from Hawaii. That's a lot of water. 777 out of Hawaii to San Francisco. I respect that, but it's a lot of water. Alright, and then Johnny, yeah, we do have a speed restriction, 280 knots. And it wants me to kind of be at the higher end of the speed. Or at the higher end of the altitude. And for posterity's sake, we should probably make a call. What should this say? Let's workshop this. Something along the lines of San Francisco traffic. We're Horizon Air 4455 CRJ descending on the Bodega 3 arrival. San Francisco. No one's going to hear it, but good to do. Let's let the autopilot catch this up and go ahead and call up San Francisco traffic. San Francisco traffic, Horizon Air 4455 descending on the Bodega 3 arrival. Mulbeck transition into San Francisco traffic. For what little it's worth. Mulbeck and then Johnny, 280 knots and 1100 feet. So we can start dialing that in now. We're going to go down to, I believe our restriction's 240. Yeah, 240 is the bottom end. And we'll just leave it in 0 for now. As we start coming on downhill. It is requesting a descent of 4,200 feet to get to 310, which is interesting. Looking like 2,500 feet. It's going to be a little tough. We'll go 2,200 feet. And begin our descent into San Francisco. I think you can see the bay up this way. I'm not super familiar with the geography of the area. But if you're just joining us, we are coming downhill into San Francisco International Airport on the Bodega 3 arrival in our trusty Horizon Air CRJ-700. And I'm just trying to keep the speed back, and we'll go down to 280 knots here in a second. Let's say in 2700. Not sure how much I buy that. And we will hold it up 280. And we might put it in speed climb or speed descent mode at this point. And aim for these as kind of nominal numbers. So we want to be a little past that. Bigelow 210. So we'll add a little bit of power in and just gently maneuver our magenta line until it's a bit past Johnny. Not the most precise thing in the world, but it'll do. We're not going for any awards. So now would be an appropriate time to look at our descent checklist. We'll make sure our landing speeds are set. Our approach briefing, we're going to follow Bodega 3. We talked through that a little bit, but then we're just going to follow the altitude and speed restrictions on down. And then we're going to come out basically heading 140. And then we'll vector ourselves right onto the ILS for the localizer for 24 left as we get into San Francisco. Nav aids, we can program in the ILS if it doesn't have it already. I'll check on that. And then we're going to be looking for altimeter 3027. So there's Johnny. And now we'll knock in the low as 210 here. And zoom out so I can just see the next one. So Bigelow, flight level 212. Then Lozzie wants us to be about 1,500 feet. Lower restriction, lower bound here is 190. So we'll just keep on stepping it down. So again, the wind's pretty strong. We're getting 17 knots. Winds should be a pretty decent headwind, though. 280, so the crosswind component shouldn't be too disruptive. But if for some reason that changes, or is not modeled in the sim for whatever reason, be prepared for that. It's just stiff wind today. And then we have a little bit of clouds. It's kind of just on the edge, so we'll turn anti-ice on just in case. 11 degrees Celsius at sea level. Or, yeah, I suppose SFO would be sea level. So it's probably a bit colder up here. And again, we're looking for 212 here, so just a little more power. And holding 280 knots. We come on down. Go ahead and turn seatbelt signs on so I don't forget later. And 101, let's just see what it's telling me we're going to get. Down to San Francisco, and it's telling me about 14 minutes. Telling me about 114 there. So, lining up reasonably well. We're about 15 minutes away from the runway here. That's 220, 210. Maybe the map would be helpful. Then Lozzie 280, and wants us. Is that a hard restriction at 16,000? I wonder. No, below 16,000. So we're gonna aim for 15,000. We're not really in danger of busting the bottom, so 15,000. We'll just basically pull back till we get 15,000 at Lozzie. So where are we relative to San Francisco? We are really coming down here big low now. We're going to basically fly out here over the Pacific just a little bit, and then out to the west of San Francisco. Then bring it on in. Bring it on in. It's 15,000 at Lozzie, and then I believe these are hard restrictions. 13,000 at Bodega, 11,000 at Cork. So we will be hitting. We'll hit those numbers. Just a little bit less power. And let's see, Lozzie. We'll keep an eye out for the field. Also, as we come on down. Looking pretty good, 18,000 feet. Altimeter going to be 3027. So we'll knock that in right on time. 3027. At our transition altitude here in the United States. 18,000 feet. It is a cool landscape. Certainly one of the cooler ones to fly around. Lozzie, Bodega, we can zoom in just a skosh. And we'll be ready to hit 13,000 now. We're actually kind of close to 16,000 here at Lozzie. That's kind of sneaky. But 13,000 will pull power. And come on down through these scattered clouds. Now just talk through our landing, what we're going to do. We're going to basically enter a long downwind for the runway, a long right downwind. We're going to turn right, intercept the localizer. I'm going to try and undershoot the localizer, so we're going to basically maneuver so that we don't overshoot and go into the other side. Because these are parallel runways, and I just want to practice that a little bit. We're going to be on 28 left today. Well, it may not matter the way we're coming in. So that's 13,000, and then Cork, 11,000.
San Francisco traffic, dash 4027, entering runway 1 left crossing for runway 1 right.
So they're taking 1 right. That's interesting. So that's one of the crossing runways at San Francisco. We'll just keep an eye out for them. 12,000 and then 11,000 feet coming on in. Yeah, there's the field right in front of us. You can see we're going for the runway's mostly parallel to us, so we're going to veer off to the left a little bit. Or maybe I'm not oriented right. Maybe it's going to take us, basically, I see. So, it's going to take us, looks like, over the field at Bricks, at level 110. And then we'll start, we're going to have to descend fairly aggressively to get down to where we need to be. So Bodega 3, we are getting a little slow. 250 knots, actually perfect. With the unintentional auto throttle. So once we cross Bricks, we'll go ahead and descend down to 3,100 feet. And once we're kind of getting to there, we will go ahead and turn around, come out for 28 left. So we're going to be off to the right of 28 left, basically. We're going to fly over the field, past it, and loop back around, effectively, vectoring ourselves into the airport. I'm going a little slow now. Here's where I need the auto throttle. And we're going to descend, maintain 3,100 feet. And we'll go ahead and take a speed of... I'll take a speed of 220 is reasonable for me. So we will go ahead and clear ourselves to descend. Start.
San Francisco traffic, dash 4027, taking off runway 1 right. San Francisco traffic.
Then we'll track 140. Off of Bricks and expect our vectors. And yep, course of 140. We've also, it's doing that automatically, but I'm also doing it with heading mode. San Francisco traffic, Horizon Air 4455 CRJ. We are over the field, descending for the ILS runway 3 or runway 28 left. San Francisco traffic. So bringing on down, He-Man is where we need to be at 3,100 for this ILS approach. And we've got the localizer. I'm not an expert in the terrain around here. So I'm a little, not uneasy maybe, but uneasy. We'll vector, we can vector left at this point. Heading 105. So Horizon Air 4455, turn left heading 105. And we'd say something like left heading 105. As we keep on descending, I mean, in this case, speed brakes might even help get us down a little bit faster. But yeah, I've got like no power in. I'm still way out. I'm going to jack up speed brakes and see if we can pull that in a little bit. It is a steep descent into San Francisco. Speed brakes are a friend. We'll give it all we got. So, thrust reversers are armed. We've got our V-speeds programmed in. We have cleared ourselves for the approach, as we are wont to do. Flaps, we will go down below 200 knots. Gear we'll take down once we get down to 180. Which, again, as soon as we kind of get settled here, we will turn in on the course. And again, we want to undershoot it kind of to the left if we do anything. So at this point, they might say something along the lines of Horizon Air 4455, turn left, heading... I don't know what the number would be. Something. Heading, it looks like 0... Yeah, let's go 020. We're going to capture the localizer here in a sec. We'll let our speed keep coming back so we can get configured for the ILS. And we'll just punch in direct Herman too, just to see if that does anything for me. In progress, I'm just going to use to figure out our distance. And then they'd probably say something like clear to intercept localizer and begin your approach. So that's what we shall do. So we're down to 180 knots now, and I'm talking and doing too many things. We can go down to flaps 8. Keep the power in. And then just shoot to intercept the ILS. We're cleared ILS approach runway. I'm blanking. 28 left. Here into San Francisco. And we're still slow, so just keep that power in. And that's where the CRJ will get you. When other stuff's going on, really is where you're missing the auto throttle. So we're on approach mode, and we're just going to try and help it capture the localizer. And it's got it. We're blinking, so it's thinking. And there's our runway right there, 28 left. 180 knots. We will go ahead and make a call. We're a 10-mile final for 28 left. And gear can come down. And we can go flaps 20. We'll try and keep the speed up to 180 until we get about a 5-mile final. San Francisco traffic, Horizon Air 4455, 10-mile final, runway 28 left. ILS, San Francisco. Alright, and so it's going to have to catch up and just managing the power somewhat gently as we get the glide slope. At this point, it's just large power changes are not going to be your friend. So we make our approach here into San Francisco. Now, if we do have to go missed for whatever reason, I don't know why, this is the airport that I practiced that the most at in with the CRJ. We're just going to go full toga mode, toga power, and follow the magenta cross. It's going to send us basically out straight ahead, and there will be a hold point at I think it's 4,000 feet that we have to climb out to. Yeah, 4,000 feet. We'll hit our decision height of 24. So we're now getting to a 5-mile final. On a busy night, they might be asking us very nicely to keep our speed up until a 5-mile final, so that's what we're trying to do. And now we can start to get all final configured. Again, our VREF is going to be 134 today. So we'll let the speed come on down quite a bit. Glide slope is looking good. Here we go, gear down. Reversers are armed. Spoilers are out, which isn't helping me. We'll bring that in. No wonder we were losing so much speed. Those spoilers, man, they're sneaky. So, we're down now 140. That's looking pretty good. We can go ahead and give the rest of the flaps. And some power to compensate. It's going to take quite a bit. But we don't want that to force the autopilot to lose the glide slope. So just let it figure itself out as we come on down to land. Here we go. San Francisco traffic, Horizon Air 4455, short final, runway 28 left, San Francisco. It's 3 white, 1 red, which is acceptable to me. We're just a little above the glide slope. But it's not too bad. That's 2 white, 2 red.
400.
Just keeping the power in. Till we're over the threshold.
300.
Now we're getting a little low.
200.
I'll take control.
100.
And here's threshold. Start bringing the power back.
50. 40. 30. Minimum 20. 10.
And set it on down. And, we'll see what taxiway we can make. I want to get kind of past the crossing runways if we can. All right, welcome everybody to San Francisco International Airport. We're going to get off here. Thank you for flying today on VFR Horizon Air 4455. We'll taxi on up to gate. Let's pull up a map and see what we're actually doing here. San Francisco traffic, Horizon Air 4455, vacated 28 left, San Francisco. Not conducive to traffic calls, San Francisco. Okay. So we are off somewhere. Just above the terminal. So I imagine we're actually off at X-Ray. We're going to taxi the gate via X-Ray Alpha. So straight ahead in the inner loop. So let's get it on into the gate. San Francisco traffic, Horizon Air 4455, taxiing the gate via X-Ray Alpha, San Francisco. What they call it? They got to call it something different when they're doing traffic calls. I don't know. Guess it doesn't come up that often. So this outer one should be Bravo, and we want Alpha. I don't know if this taxiway does what I want it to do. We will go ahead and taxi on in. And speak of the devil, a nice DC-6. Alright, let's see what the damage was there. Landing 150 feet per minute. Not too bad. Let's see what the landing report says. I'm going to finish flight. This is a neat... I mean, it's... I don't know how much it helps me, but it is a neat little flight. Neat little feature. If we pull up our EFB, let's see the fuel. Let's see the full landing report. Let's see what the damage is. All right, so we're in the touchdown zone. Not quite there. Difference 0.8 degrees. I don't know how good or bad that is. 150 feet per minute, which we will take. We could have got it down a little sooner, I think, but pretty much on center line. So, good stuff. We are here. We can go ahead and start APU. Strobe come off. And parking brake? Parking brake on. And we'll open it all up and throw the chocks on. Guess we didn't really need the APU after all, but whatever. Push feet flaps. So, anyway, thanks for coming along, everybody. It's been a good, fun flight. Seattle to San Francisco International Airport. I do not know how long it was. But it was a good flight. About an hour and 40 minutes from point to point. And, yeah, always good fun. Again, another full flight in the CRJ-700 Horizon Air on Vatsim. Thanks for coming along. If you guys have any questions, comments, ideas for other things you'd like to see on the channel, as always, drop it in the comment section below or the live chat in a live situation. But yeah, this has been VFR, another weeknight flight. Take it easy, y'all.